Hi everyone, thanks for joining us and welcome to the program Shagalinku TV. Today's episode we'll be looking at a whole lot of things as it relates to renewable energy. My name is Ambassador Emmanuel Gabari, and thanks to everyone who's been sending us messages. And do remember that you can like all our social media handles. It is at Shagalinku TV, both on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and all of that. So you can follow all our programs and get notifications whenever we are about to go on air, and you can also watch previous episodes on our social media handles. Okay, so today we'll be looking at renewable energy and matters arising. What is renewable energy? How can countries, governments, citizens key into it? Just as the world is moving forward, we need to also do all of that. Africa has issues when it comes to renewable energy. So much energy everywhere, but we barely or rarely are using it. In Nigeria, the national grid is also an issue. They've experienced several times of collapse from all of that, and that's why today we're looking at renewable energy, what the government can do, what citizens as well can do, and that's why we're having our guest, Mr. Igwebuike Ijeoma. He's a Nigerian country representative for World Council for Renewable Energy, and he'll be telling us more about all of that. So,
okay, thank you. My name is Igwebuike Ijeoma. I am the Nigerian country representative for the Bonn, Germany-based World Council for Renewable Energy. I also sit on the board of Climate Strategies. It's a global climate change governance think tank based in London. And I also run Schrödinger Green Tech, which is a full spectrum climate finance, energy transition, and green economic consultancy. I'm also a steering committee member of the African Coalition for Sustainable Energy Access, which is what brought us together for the launch of the Nigerian version of the AXIA initiative. Now, renewable energy is actually energy as designed by nature, right? So, you have the sun, and you have the technology to harvest the energy from the sun. You have water, right? Hydro. So, large hydro schemes, small hydro schemes, medium hydro schemes. So, it's really, then you have wind, right? So, these technologies had been there, but you see, fossil energy, right? The promoters of fossil fuel disrupted the development of renewable energy technologies, and this is as far in the last 5-6 decades. Not many people remember that there was a solar panel on the rooftop of the White House, installed like 4 decades ago, and it was one of the, I can't remember, it was either the George Senior or the George Junior, the president of the US, that took away that, because that was the biggest advertisement for the viability and feasibility of renewable energy in America. So the oil industry lobby didn't want that, right? So the technologies for cars to run on water, these things were disrupted because the capitalists were now the one. There's no way anybody can hijack the sun. There's no way anybody can hijack the wind. There's no way anybody can hijack the flow of water. And this is where the energy, the way nature designed energy for us, to use. So the fossil energy was imposed on us, right? So people can, you have the lobbies and the powerful cabals and all of that now dictating, right? So they can talk about subsidies and upon subsidies, and so it's really energy the way nature designed it, right? So now that climate change is leaving impacts on humanity, right? So governments and the private businesses promoting fossil energy, which is now the major culprit driving this climate change now, right? So it's really the forces of, or the force coming from the impact, the undeniable impact of climate change has really forced the hands of governments to now begin to give renewable energy a chance, right? Because that's renewable energy that we are using without really, is infinite, and at the end, it has minimal impact on the environment. So that's really what people will need to understand about this dichotomy, the war between renewable energy and fossil fuel, or the war that the powerful fossil fuel lobby levied against renewable energy. So now, and you see, the more investments go into attention is given to renewable energy, the less attention is given to fossil fuel. So it's just the Russian invasion of Ukraine has disrupted the global energy supply chain, and now triggering price spikes, and that's what's giving the fossil fuel industry, which they've been on the retreat. They've been because a whole lot of where they are getting their funding now, the institutional investors in Europe and America, they are recalling their funds, because organizations like World Council for Renewable Energy, who were involved in the global divestment campaign, targeting the financing, the sources that finance this fossil fuel industry. And so when their investment matured, they couldn't roll them over. So that puts a lot of pressure on the oil and gas companies, who now, because also citizens and organizations in the US and in Europe have been taking them to court, and trying to get them to pay for, using the polluter must pay principle to get them to take responsibility for climate change. Because they knew, their scientists, it's the powerful fossil fuel lobby, right? So now, with fossil energy, right, you are locked into some kind of centralized power generation, which has its own disadvantages, right? So, but with renewable energy, it gives you the option of, remember, it allows you the latitude to practice energy democracy, which is what the fossil fuel centralized energy does not allow citizens. So with energy democracy, you now have distributed energy. So you can have renewable energy wherever you want it, whenever you want it, however you want it. But fossil fuel doesn't give you that option, right? And because you are going to now string cables from Kainji, for instance, to Bayelsa, or from Calabar to Kano, right? So if you generate electricity in Calabar, you now have to put it on the so-called national grid, which, of course, it has outlived its usefulness, right? So it's part of the tool of control that the fossil fuel promoters are using, right, to keep citizens, or to keep milking citizens, right? So, if you have a solar panel on your roof, you don't have any business with AEDC, you don't have any business with NEPA, you don't have any business with any of the fossil fuel, you are just on your own, right? So, but if they commit you to the national grid, then they have to now come to start telling you about, what do they call it, estimated billing, all manner of, so they now see you as a point where they can, a center, a business center where they can make a lot of profit. They're not interested in giving you energy. They're interested in how they can use that as some kind of a dummy, right? So, like, it's a mirage. Right? We saw. How do you power an economy more than 200 million people with 3, 4, 5,000 grid generation. So Nigeria's economy is running, is a generator economy, right? And that in itself is a problem, right? Because pollution there is a study that says that pollution is taking away approximately 5 years from life expectancy of Nigerians. And that's a fact. And then it's a study, right, that is out there. So 5 years from life expectancy. So you can imagine the proliferation of I passed my neighbor fossil fuel generators, the diesel generators, everywhere. The motorcycles, the cars. So we are virtually we're living in an open-ended gas chamber, you know. So then you now have our women using firewood to cook, right? And there's a World Health Organization study, research that also said that Nigeria is losing almost 89,000, approximately 90,000 Nigerian women who die from respiratory complication as a result of inhalation of smoke, soot. Of course, you are seeing and witnessing, you are living witness to the soot epidemic in Port Harcourt. So, I mean, all of these issues are caused by what? These issues are caused by fossil fuel. So, these are what we are going to avoid if we develop our renewable energy resources. And if we must develop them, then we need to invest a lot of money in local capacity building, because we cannot keep on importing these equipment. We need to develop our own capacity to develop them and manufacture them and produce our energy with minimal input from outside. You know, the thing with firewood, right? Firewood cooking. So you and I have escaped that trap, right? But then it's a common denominator for all of us, for Aliko Dangote, for the Femi Otedolas of this world, for everyone at some point were using fuel wood, even in Europe and America. So they escaped that trap, centuries, at least a century ago, right? But we are still in that. So that's a major indicator of our level of development. So in Europe and America, people go camping, right? So when they go camping, they can now, cook, do barbecue, and that's not a problem. But for someone who was born into it and who lived a life, maybe died at 80 or 70 or whatever, still trapped in that. So that becomes a problem, right? So for some people, they exited that trap. They escaped 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. But then the point I'm trying to make is all of us started from there, right? So the people that are still trapped in that, they don't have a choice. And that's where this whole idea of giving them the choice of the improved cook stove, because it becomes a problem that somebody's inhaling that soot for 40 years, 50 years, 60 years without an option. That's the only way she has to feed her family if they must eat. So for me it's an option, for you it's an option, right? For majority of people living in Abuja it's an option. But for these women who are poor, who are economically disadvantaged, who are trapped in that, government needs to make interventions, and the Axia platforms like Axia will also need to make that intervention to show them the alternatives, to see how we can now get them to use those alternatives to displace the firewood cooking. And it's a big development challenge. Now, people don't say, what people see is, okay, you have mortality, right? You see people dying, right? Then you see deforestation, right? So you see deforestation, you see desertification, and you see erosion. Because once you cut down a tree, now you are now reducing our ability to fight climate change, to sink carbon, to take away carbon, because trees do what? They sequester carbon, they draw carbon from the atmosphere, and now give us what? Oxygen. So every tree is an oxygen factory. And if we begin to look at it that way, that when you are cutting down a tree, you are cutting down your oxygen supply, then I think we are going to have a different attitude to that. So that's a major development challenge we have in Nigeria, right? And it makes us to be a poor country. No matter how we, want to, how we want to phrase it, it makes us a poor country. Almost 90,000 of our women are dying because they don't have any other option of cooking, household energy. So they are dying of smoke and respiratory complications and causing deforestation, desertification, and erosion because they are cutting down trees and reducing our... at the World Council for Renewable Energy, initially it was a global north-facing organization, right? Until when I joined them, and we are in the process of recalibrating the scope of impact and now trying to bring some of their resources to Africa, and the focus again on Africa, and now see how we can reallocate resources to Africa. So that transition from just a purely global north focused organization to a full spectrum, want to get them to start looking at Africa, want to get them to start looking at Nigeria. Of course, you can't talk about Africa without Nigeria, So that's what we are doing. But then I talked about the global divestment campaign, which we ran in Europe and America. We've been making strategic interventions. In 2012, as far back as 2012, when the Nigerian government was pushing for the construction of nuclear energy. So we made a press release. We were one of the few organizations. We are the first organization that made a press release, condemning Nigeria's choice of nuclear in the considering the abundance of other cleaner sources of electricity. And of course, the choice of nuclear for Nigeria, it's something that people are trying to understand, how you can have this level of solar, how you can have this level of wind, and how you can have this level of hydro, and you are still even gas, and you are going solar. You are going nuclear. Again, now you see this insecurity in Nigeria. A lot of non-state actors getting much more and more claiming, ungoverned spaces in Nigeria, and sometimes the government losing control of some of the spaces to these increasingly violent non-state actors. So you now ask yourself, if these insurgents and terrorists can attack military bases, right? So what happens if we have a nuclear plant? So they would like to, it will be something that will be attractive to them, for them to really see how they can, destroy it and cause collateral damage to the society and to the community and to the country. So it's something that requires precision management, precision technology, and maintenance and all of that. So I'm not sure we are ready for it. But then, most times, what the citizens see is completely different from what the decision makers in government see. So we're making interventions in that space. With the climate strategies, there is a project ongoing which Nigeria, we are trying to look at, evaluate. We are trying to evaluate the political economy of net zero, right? So we are looking at, because we understand Nigeria is a country, an influential country in Africa, right? So the net zero, we don't want a situation where our development objectives, national development objectives, will suffer because of our net zero aspirations. And we also don't want a situation where our net zero aspirations will be sacrificed for. So how can these two aspirations, the net zero and our national development objectives, how can they reinforce each other, right? And create, green jobs in the process. So that project is ongoing. And it's also a project that will really, by the time we look at the pressure points and see where we can make interventions that will have large-scale impact in terms of emission reduction, job creations, and livelihood support for Nigeria. So that project is ongoing. The AXIA platform is a brand new platform that we are now beginning to pull in resources, pull in our expertise and experiences, bring it on the ASEAN platform for us now to tackle some of the biggest environmental and development issues we have in Nigeria. So I'm excited about the... Yes, for the federal government, it's to use the resources available and the clouds that it has to drive, to move, to restructure the Nigerian electricity supply industry, right? Generally. There's a constitutional review that's ongoing, and there are proposals because the federal government, and this is absurd, saying, oh, the federal government is saying only me can generate electricity and all of that. So it's on the exclusive list, right? And now they said, okay, we can take it to concurrent list, right? So it shows that there's some kind of reluctance. What my advice to the federal government is to be bold and courageous enough, right? And the National Assembly to move energy production from the exclusive list to the residual list. And that is what is going to unlock the resources at the communities and now give that sovereign right of energy availability, energy affordability to the citizens. So that's the most important thing that the government needs to do. And again, the subsidy, the federal government needs to initiate what I call a subsidy transition, right? Go from inefficient subsidies to efficient subsidy, right? So moving subsidy away from PMS to clean cook stoves, moving subsidy away from PMS to providing solar or renewable energy powered electricity, distributed electricity through the mini grid regulation to the people, those rural villagers who are just seeing electricity in the last 1 year or who are even yet to benefit from them. Because as we saw, and this is something I've always known, they are paying, the people at the bottom of the pyramid are paying more for energy, all kinds of energy, both cooking energy, electricity, they pay more, right? So that is that subsidy transition, 4 trillion, right? How do we really move half of it into delivering gas to industries, subsidizing gas, subsidizing renewable energy for the people at the bottom of the pyramid, subsidizing LPG cook stoves for the same people at the bottom of the pyramid? Because if we are making those investments, we should see beyond helping citizens. We're actually making investments in reducing deforestation, in fighting desertification, in fighting erosion. Because if we don't do it, then we'll continue to have rapid deforestation. So, that's what I have to say to the federal government. Then to the states, the state governments, generally, there are quite a few state governments that we've seen trying to be innovative, trying to push at the boundaries and, within the restricted and difficult environment that they are operating, right? So, looking at West, for instance, and they should copy what the Kano state government is doing, right? And what we are doing in Kano, to use the waste management to solve their development problems. In fact, because what the Kano state government is trying to do, which is very commendable and laudable, is to use integrated sustainable waste management to meet the SDGs, right? And deal with water, sanitation, and health and hygiene issues, and solve those problems while generating electricity, while reducing methane emission, while reducing carbon dioxide emission. So this is what the state government, and they really have to move away. Both the federal government and the state government would have to explore public-private community partnership, right? And get the people involved and give them back that agency to really drive this development agenda. So that's, for me, is for the states. They should look at, collaborating with the communities and private sector, using the model again that Kano State is deploying. So for citizens, it's for people to see how they can, first of all, improve their health, right? And see how they can also contribute their quota in terms of using energy efficient appliances, which saves a lot of cost for them, and also not getting involved in vandalizing the little effort that the government is doing in this direction. So for me, that's it. And for NGOs and non-state actors like us in the system, for us to increase and ramp up awareness creation and capacity building and enlightenment campaigns.
It's been amazing talking with you, sir. Thank you so much, Mr. Igwebuike Ijeoma, for that very wonderful and incisive interview you had with us. We truly appreciate. And thanks to everyone who joined us. I hope you also learned one or two things from all of that. Remember your comments, feedbacks, your thoughts, and way forward. And if you have ideas on how you think we can move the program forward, please do drop them for us. Our email address is shagalinko1@gmail.com. Also, the videos will be here. You can still watch it even after the broadcast, after the live broadcast. You can watch it on YouTube and also on Facebook. And remember to click the notification button on the YouTube page so that when we go live, you will be able to get to know and join us. And also subscribe to our YouTube channel, and also like all our social media handles. Like I told you before, it is at Shagalinko TV. So like all our social media handles: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and all of that, and keep the conversations going. Once again, thanks to everyone who joined us, and thanks to our guest, Mr. Igwebuike Ijeoma. He's a Nigerian country representative for World Council for Renewable Energy. And we talked about renewable energy and matters arising. I remain yours sincerely, Ambassador Emmanuel Gabari, and from all of us in Shagalinko TV, we say thank you and have a beautiful day. See you on the next episode. Take care of yourself.